Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video where we're going to tinker with artificial intelligence, machine learning. And in this video, what I would like to teach you is a very simple, very quick way of downloading and installing a large language model on your computer and then talking and chatting and generating text with it. I'm going to give you a really quick demo. So what I'm going to do is I just open a terminal. I'm going to type Ollama run a llama model, and then I'm going to go into chat mode with the large language model that I'm running in my computer right now. And I'm going to type, hey, I'm the host of a YouTube channel called Parametric Camp. Would you like to greet our audience? And here's what I'm getting back in result. Hello, welcome to PCamp. I'll be happy to craft a greeting for your audience. Here are a few options. So first, hey everyone, welcome back to PCamp. I'm excited to have you here today. Or welcome to another episode of PCamp. We're passionate about sharing knowledge and inspiration with you. Or the third option, what's up creators? Welcome to PCamp and blah, blah, blah. So I want to emphasize what's interesting about this is that it's basically like ChatGPT is a chatbot, it's an LLM, but it's running completely in my computer. I would not need to be connected to the internet. It costs no money because I'm running it in my computer, and it's the one that I'm using right now is fairly lightweight. So this is a fantastic way and really simple and fast to have LLMs running on your computer, chatting with them, and different ways to perform this conversation. I'm going to show you different ways to perform the conversation that I just did directly from the terminal, from other applications using an API, from a WebUI, so typing on a tiny browser text and getting responses back, and last but not least, from Grasshopper, which we like a lot in this channel. All right, so let's get hands-on and let me show you how easy it is to set this up on your very computer. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to download and install this framework that is called Ollama. Where is it? I actually don't see it. Well, you go to the, you can see here, ollama.com. So you go there, and Ollama is basically a framework that it makes very easy to download and to run large language models that are open source or open weights. You might be familiar with Llama, which is the LLM that Meta published and made available for free. This week, DeepSeek got a lot of attention in the media. It has several models, a reasoning model, a chatbot model, and then there's others like Mistral, Gemma, Quad, etc. that you can download. So it's actually super easy. So you're going to go to download and you're going to click on whatever your system is. I'm going to download it for Windows, and then I'm going to choose somewhere to download this. And the download for me was about 750 gigabytes. So then you're going to download, you to double click, you're going to press install, and then in 1 or 2 minutes, this is going to be done. Okay. So I can't really show you, I already have it installed right now. Okay. I can't really show you, but in your taskbar here next to the clock, which I have on my other screen, you're going to have like a tiny Ollama head that is basically going to signal that Ollama is running on your computer. And the best way to know if this is true is by opening up a terminal. So you're going to click on Control Search, so Windows key and search, or you're going to go to the search bar and type terminal. I'm going to right click on my desktop and I'm going to open here a terminal with PowerShell on my desktop. Okay, so once you open the terminal, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to type Ollama to see if this is working on your end. All right, and awesome. So you have Ollama running on your system. The next thing that you need to do is when you download Ollama, Ollama is empty. Ollama doesn't have any model installed. So what you want to do is you want to go to the models and you want to figure out which is the model that you want to download. So the most popular ones at the recording of this video, this is January of 2025, is Llama, which is the large language model from Meta, right? And DeepSeek, which has got a lot of popularity this last week. When you click on one of these models, you can see that there are lots of different versions of the model. For example, DeepSeek, you have different versions with more or less parameters, 7 billion, 14 billion, 32 billion. In general, the more parameters you have, the better the performance of the model, but it's also slower, the download is bigger, and then the resources required on your machine are greater. So I am recording this from a desktop computer that has an RTX 3090, which is a fairly good GPU. So that's why I can run some of these models. Okay, so depending on which device you're using, if you have a laptop with a dedicated graphics card, you're good to go. If you have a laptop with no graphic card, I'm not sure if this will work for you. But anyway, let's start by downloading some kind of lightweight model. So I'm going to go to 1.5, and you see that this is going to be the command that you need to input in order to run this model locally. If it is the first time you run this model, what Ollama is going to do is going to download this model for you. So I'm going to tap Ollama run DeepSeek version 1.5b. And as I do that, because it figures out that I don't have it, no connection could be made because the target machine actually refused it. All right, so then let's just do the following. Let's just change the command and say Ollama pool, and then the name of the model that we want to download. By doing that, you're basically going to download the model from the internet. As you can see right now, it takes about 1 minute because it's a fairly light model, but I'm going to stop this by doing Control-C because I already have some models downloaded. So I'm going to type Ollama list, and you can see that I do have 2 models downloaded. I have a Llama 3.2 and I have a DeepSeek R1. This is 8 billion parameters, and this one I don't really know how many parameters it is. And now comes the really cool part. These models are already downloaded, so I spent that time, right? So now what I can do is I can enter chat mode with any of them. So what I can do is I can say Ollama run and then the name of the model, Llama 3.2 colon latest. As I do that, the model gets started in my computer, and now I'm entering chat mode. So now here is when I can say, what's the capital of France? And then it's Paris. What is parametric camp? And then it's in parametrics, an annual conference in London. It was created by Zaha Hadid. Well, as you can see, that's not true. The model is hallucinating, but it's also a model that doesn't have a lot of weight. So it's trying to do its best. Or for example, what is the meaning of the cross product of 2 vectors? All right. And then the 2 vectors is blah, blah, blah. It gives me some notation and it's talking. All right. It's basically like having ChatGPT on your machine. All right. I can press Control D. I can leave the window, and now I'm going to try to run a different model. So I'm going to run DeepSeek R1, which is a reasoning model. All right. And I think it's 8 billion parameters, the one that I had. All right. And yes, so now I'm going to copy and paste. What is the meaning of the cross product of 2 vectors? And because it's a reasoning model, it's going to give me a fairly reasoned through lengthy response. So you can see that it's generating text, it's giving me the determinant, the operation, what does it mean, blah, blah, blah. As I said, this is recorded in the end of January of 2025. This last week has been dominated by the publishing of this particular model, the DeepSeek R1 model. But if you're watching this from somewhere in the future, maybe you're like, oh, these poor people in 2025, these really prehistoric models that I had to deal with. We are very excited today about this. And you can see, still chatty and chatty and chatty. R1 is very chatty, if I have to say. As I said before, we can check, if you download several models, you can have all of them running in your machine at the same time. So for example, you can use the Ollama list command to list all the models that you've downloaded, and you can use Ollama PS to list the ones that are actively running and using resources on your machine right now. So whenever you call a model, your Ollama automatically wakes it up and keeps it running so that the next time that you use it is faster to run. Okay. Now I've shown you how you can use Ollama in this interactive chat mode, but it doesn't have to be like that. You can just, from the command line, run an inference just once and go back to your command line in a very easy way, like for doing this, for example. What you can do is you can say, Ollama, run the model that you're interested in running, and in double quotes, you can pass the prompt that you want to send to the model. So if I do this, I can say, yeah, whatever. My cutoff date was Joe Biden in 2000 and in 2023. All right. Now, if you are working with files of text, for example, you can pass those files of text directly as well. So for example, I have here in my system, I have on my desktop a file called prompt.txt. And in that file, I have, can you explain to me what the cross product of two vectors mean? All right. And actually it should be means, right? This is my not being an English speaker. So what I can do here is I can do Ollama run Llama 3.2 latest. And then what I can do is, this is my question. And then before you close the double quotes, you can insert a command. So you can do open and close parentheses with a $sign and say cat, which is a shell command for reading and printing a file, and then prompt.txt. All right. By doing this, this will execute first. This will turn into the text of the file, and then the entire prompt will be this part highlighted here, which is the cross product of two vectors, blah, 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 as we did before. All right. If you're using a multimodal file, a multimodal model like Lava that takes images, this is also a technique that you can use to load and pass images to the model. Now, if you remember from previous videos in this channel, one of the interesting things that the companies who make these models provide to us is APIs, application programming interfaces, which are basically ways of letting us write code locally that ask for inferences to the servers that are running these large language models, and then get a response from those servers that then we can use into our applications, right? So if you remember, you can use ChatGPT from the window and the chatbot, but you can also use the API by doing what's called a post request to this endpoint here and making sure that you pass some kind of JSON file that has the right format as per the specifications of the API. If you don't remember any of this, we have in the playlist, we have a bunch of examples of how to use the Dall-E API from the terminal with Python, C#, whatever, or how we wrote a ChatGPT-like web app by using the API from OpenAI, all right? So super interestingly, what happens with those APIs is that we typically ask for service from the server of OpenAI or these other companies. When we use Ollama, what's really interesting is that Ollama automatically creates a small API in our computer that we can use to query and to get inference and to ask the model for predictions from any other applications, so that we don't need to use the command line and we don't need to type things. We can directly write software that that uses these services locally. All right. So for that, for example, I've written a really quick example here. This example is an example where in Node.js, I am querying, and this is super interesting actually. So here you can see that just by using and having Ollama installed on your system, there is already a port on your computer, 11,000 something that has an API with a generate endpoint. So if we just write a very thin application, this is written in JavaScript, that goes to the endpoint and sends a JSON object with what model are we trying to use from the ones that we have downloaded? What is the question that we're sending? And so that we don't have the whole back and forth of like typing, blah, 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 we just get the response in one big object. Then we set the parameter stream to false. okay? Then we just make a simple post request, we send that to the server, and then the moment we get the response, we just print that to the console. So what I'm going to do now here is I'm going to, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of small, but I'm going to type node and then completion, blah, blah, blah. And then the request was sent to the endpoint that is running locally on my computer. And I'm going to move this somewhere else so you can see it. So you can see that I have the response here. Parametric camp, I couldn't find anything, I don't know what to do, etc., etc. Okay, so I will copy a version of this application in the Fun with AI section of our GitHub for parametric camp. Okay, a similar application is this one that we wrote here. So this is a web application that is running on my machine right now, and that connects to an endpoint, can send a post request with these headers and with this as the question. And this has to be written in JSON, okay? And then I'm going to request this. The request is sent to the Llama model that is living on my machine. And then I'm getting a response as a JSON file as well. This is kind of difficult to read, okay? But this is the way you would write applications locally. Now, if you really, really are a fan of web-based UIs for LLM, etc., if you're not building apps, if you just want to talk and chat with your local Llama, your local DeepSeek or whatever, then the way you would do with ChatGPT, then what I would recommend is that you check this project called OpenWebUI. OpenWebUI, if you go to their GitHub, is basically a project that allows you to download and to run locally. Again, with no access to the internet, no cloud, all your data stays private. You download and you install a web UI that allows you that gives you an interface to talk to the large language models that you have installed locally using Ollama. So I have to say though, I went through a bit of a pickle to install this thing. I tried doing it the Python way. I had kind of problems doing it. I ended up using the Docker way, but it was a pretty heavy download, etc., etc. So I'm not going to get into this, but it's not so straightforward. At least it wasn't on my end to get it installed. But anyway, I finally managed to have it installed using Docker. So I have a Docker instance with GPU access. And then once you have that, the only thing you need to do is you go to localhost 3000, and then you are prompted with this ChatGPT looking interface to talk to the models. And interestingly, the web UI application already detected which models I have installed. It already connected to Ollama, so I didn't have to configure anything whatsoever. And then I can now just do the regular web UI chatty thing that you would do with ChatGPT. Like for example, what is parametric camp? All right, tell me about it. And DeepSeek is going to take some time to think. Also known as parameters space camp. I don't know that it's getting it correct, but yes, I mean, it's doing something. And then I can keep talking. Tell me much more. And it's kind of thinking. And yeah, it's perhaps a metaphorical thing. I don't know, it just tells me more and more. You can have like a normal conversation the way you would do with ChatGPT, which is kind of nice. And again, it took me a little bit of time to install. If you actually want to hear more about how I did it, I recorded this video in a live stream, so there will be a link to the full live stream if you want to see the hurdles that I went through, and also in general all the explorations that I did to record this video. And last but not least, and I know you're excited about Grasshopper things, so I wanted to show you an example of how to use LLM predictions that are coming from Ollama models into your Grasshopper definitions. So the only thing, remember again, because Ollama creates a REST API, which basically means that you can use HTTP post requests to ask a question to the model and get a response, both in JSON formats. The only thing that you need to do is you need to write a C# script, one that performs a post request to the endpoint that we specify. And the endpoint that we specify is that localhost endpoint that we have running on our machine right now. And then it's all a matter of composing a JSON object with the right parameters to get a response. So you can see that here I'm using the JSON plugin to create a JSON object that has a model key, a prompt key, and a stream key. The stream is set to false. The prompt is, can you explain the cross product? And then I have written here, hard-coded, the two models that I have available in my Ollama installation. So the moment I plug this into the HTTP post request, Grasshopper, this C# component, is doing a post request locally to my Ollama API. And then you can see that the result is this gigantic JSON file that has a lot of information, blah, blah, blah. But we can deserialize that JSON information and get all the keys for that object, the response being the one that we're interested in. Look, it's a cross product, it's a fundamental, blah, 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 whatever. And if I were to now switch to DeepSeek, this is going to take a while. Last time I tried it, it took about 1 minute or so. So I think I'm just going to leave this running as I wrap up this video. But what I wanted to say with this video is running large language models in your machine is actually super, super easy to do with this framework called Ollama. Remember, Ollama is great for installing and running large language models on your machine. You can install the framework and then you can download whichever models you are interested in of the ones that are open source. Depending on your machine, how powerful your graphics card is, how much memory do you have, you might be able to run more powerful or thinner models depending on your hardware specifications. But what's good about this is that you only rely, the cost of running these models is only the cost of the energy of running the electricity for your computer, and all your data stays private. So you're not sharing any sensitive data with any of these companies that provide LLM services, because remember that most of that data will end up as training material for future models. Okay, so if you're worried about your privacy, or if you have a process where you have a huge data set and you need to run it by an LLM, so you need to do like thousands and thousands of requests to a large language model, you probably want to do it locally to save some dollars. Okay, you see that the request took 1.2 minutes, and then we got this like really, really lengthy response from DeepSeek about what cross product is of two vectors. Okay, fantastic, beautiful. So this was this quick, let's dip our toes into running LLMs locally. There's much more you can do. You can pass images to these models. You can download really heavyweights. You can build entire applications using local resources. So I hope that this just gave you a glimpse of how easy it was for me to do this with Ollama, and what are the possibilities that you have given the fact that you already have an API, so you can build applications that use large language model services and draw from them for whatever applications. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, maybe do all the YouTube thingy, subscribe to the channel, like this video, tell your friends to join the fun, etc., etc. Thank you very much, and see you in future videos. Bye bye. Oh, and remember, the files that I just showed in this video are available in our Fun with AI GitHub, in our Fun with AI folder in our GitHub on Parametric Camp. There will be a link to those files in the description of this video. Thank you, and see you very soon. Bye bye.